Neat, groovy, awesome.
Cool.
These are synonyms for a word that has been taking a lot of my attention lately, and somebody already said it. Cool. I'm the town administrator for Berlin, and as Graham mentioned, my name is Laura Allen, and I'm here to talk to you about what's new and what's happening in America's coolest small town. One of the most exciting things that happened to us this year is we won Budget Travels Contest, America's Coolest Small Town. No small amount of effort went into that. It was largely a social media campaign. We had a lot of help from the county, and I've got a lot of questions from people about how did you guys get into that contest? Essentially what happened was Lisa Challenger, who's the tourism director for Worcester County, nominated us, and Budget Travel took the nomination. We went from there. We did a great job getting out first and staying in first place throughout the entire voting period, and I want to thank you all for your efforts and your votes because they made a huge difference. So America's Coolest Small Town, winning that contest, has substantially increased our visibility. We actually felt an impact in terms of an increase in tourism around Valentine's Day, before we even won the contest. Budget Travel has put out a large section of their magazine focusing on Berlin and has pushed out quite a bit of promotional material on their website. So as a result, the number of folks that are coming to town has substantially increased, and our businesses are doing really, really well. In fact, Berlin has had all of its commercial properties filled, all of its spaces filled for pretty much the past year, although recently we had 2 smaller spaces just for routine reasons become available. So pretty much our entire downtown is full of some great, cute little shops. In fact, today I brought, and you should have them on your table, this map, which has got all of our restaurants and businesses in town. Also shows you where the public restrooms are, which is one of the major questions we get. And then I've also included an events list. And coming up on Friday, we have bathtub races right in downtown starting at 6 o'clock. We'll close Main Street. It's a chamber event. It's always a lot of fun. If you get a chance to come out Friday, that would be great. A couple of other events we've got coming up is one of our signature events, the Peach Festival. That's August 2nd, starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got Shakespeare on Main Street on September 5th. Right on 5th Street, we're going to close it and do live theater right downtown. It's a free event. And then one of the most popular events we have is the Fiddlers Convention. That's in September on the 19th through the 21st. And at the same time, we're also going to have Paint Berlin, which is a plein air competition where you have artists out painting different scenes of the town. And then at the Worcester Arts Council, they're going to have a competition. So as I mentioned, we won America's Coolest Small Town. Tourism has really picked up. Businesses are really doing well. The town is thriving. One of the programs we instituted last year as part of our effort to increase tourism and welcome guests really effectively to Berlin is the Ambassador Program. And you may notice I have this extremely attractive yellow shirt on today because this afternoon from 1 to 3, I'm going to be standing on the street in downtown Berlin, meeting and greeting guests that come to the town. And thankfully, Mark has also volunteered. I'm sorry?
I hope the ring stuff.
I hope so too, otherwise I probably won't be out there. It is one of the programs we instituted. The mayor feels very strongly that when folks come to Berlin, it should feel like they're coming home. It should feel like they're being welcomed into somebody's home and greeted by a close personal friend. So when you come to Berlin, especially during the season, look for the bright yellow shirt, bright yellow umbrella right by the church mouse. If you're looking for a particular restaurant or if you've got a question about the town's history, the Ambassador Program, the folks in that yellow shirt, is where to go. The other thing that's new is we've taken over the Visitor Center from the Chamber of Commerce. We've got a good working relationship with the Chamber. They're still in a growth period, and so we've got the Visitor Center, which is right across from Nest and right down the street from the deli. Can't miss it. Visitor Center's open from 11 to 3 during the week. It's another great place to get information about what's going on in the area as well as what's going on in Berlin specifically. We are looking for volunteers, so if you guys have time that you want to spend during the week or on the weekend, either in the Visitor Center, meeting people and telling them about Berlin and cool things to do in the area, or during the week and you want to stand on the street, maybe on a day when the weather's a little bit nicer. Let me know, because we are always looking for volunteers. We've got a pretty good level of participation through the summer, But when the fall kicks in, we're still gonna need people to meet and greet folks that are coming into town to check out our events, the fun things that we've got going on. It might surprise you to know that Berlin now has 11 restaurants. So it is almost a perfect dining destination. If you're looking for a different type of food, we have it right downtown. So let me segue into a couple of other things we've got going that are new. I put on your tables also these really great coasters. So this program, the Walk Smart program, we partnered with State Highway on, mirrors what they're doing in Ocean City. And our programs fall out from a terrible accident that happened on 113 where that young man was killed. And the mayor formed a citizens committee to really focus on pedestrian improvements along 113 and within Berlin itself. So I can give State Highway a lot of credit for how well they partnered with our citizens group. And a positive thing that's come out of that tragedy is our Walk Smart program. We've got information on our website, and we've got this very cool logo that State Highway System has given us. And you feel free to take these coasters. You'll see banners in town, and at the Beach Festival, you'll also see us wearing Walk Smart t-shirts. Is our way of promoting pedestrian safety, not just in 113, but also in our downtown. Today, with the weather, is a perfect time for me to talk to you about the next big thing we've got going on, which is our stormwater utility and improvements we're making to reduce flooding in Berlin. Last year, the town instituted a stormwater utility. All of the residents and commercial property owners contribute money towards a fund that we're using to improve our waterways in two ways. One, to improve water quality, and two, to reduce flooding. And on a day like today, you can really see our, especially in Ocean City, but if you drive through Berlin, you'll be able to see that our storm drain system is not able to handle the quantity of water that drops, especially on a rainy day like today. So I'm pleased to let you know that the town has done a nice job getting as much money as they can for grants for major construction projects. And so earlier this year, we were notified that we received a $124,000 grant from FEMA to replace a culvert on Williams Street by our power plant. This a couple of years ago, we had a major storm and some damage, flooding and related damage occurred to our power plant, which is an essential facility for the town. So we've got money for that. We'll be replacing that culvert later on this year. We also received over $900,000 from the Department of Natural Resources to do additional work on Hudson Branch. Hudson Branch is a tributary, drains into the coastal bays. It will affect Flower Street as well as Williams Street. And actually Hudson Branch runs from Flower basically up to Graham, Grice, and Nelson, if you know Berlin at all. And so we've got a significant amount of money that we're going to put towards more culvert improvements along Flower, as well as putting in wetlands so that the water, when it drains, can go through a natural filtration process. And again, I mentioned the two things we're working on, improving water quality as well as reducing flooding. So these projects we've got going along Hudson Branch with these grant funds will enable us to do both. So we're very excited about that. And right now, the projects are going through a permitting process, and we'll be taking them out for construction bids, I would say probably November, December timeframe. So next year, you can expect when you come to Berlin, if you're on Williams Street or Flower Street, you can expect to see some significant construction going on down there. We're also working on putting in a new police facility. The facility we have right now is old and it does not meet current standards. For example, we are required, when a juvenile comes into a police department under arrest, we are required to keep them separate from an adult. And it's just one example of a facility we've got that doesn't quite meet that standard. So we've got property off of Flower Street, right next to 113, where we're going to be constructing a new police facility. It's in the design phases right now. What the police chief and I have been doing is going around and looking at adjacent communities and what they have done with their new police facilities and coming up with a design that we think is really going to meet the needs of our community as well as meet the standards that are now required for police facilities across the country. The project will probably cost about $1 million, and the council has committed the slots money or the casino grant, impact grant money that we get towards that project. So for the next year, you can also expect to see RFP go out for design services for the police facility and probably construction in that area off of Assateague Road and 113 for that new police facility. So that pretty much covers what's going on in Berlin right now. But I also want to talk about what's coming up because Berlin's pretty much focused on the future. One of the exciting things we've got going later on this summer and early fall is a strategic planning process the mayor and I are putting together to talk to the community about what their priorities are and what they would like to see Berlin look like 5, 10, 15 years from now. We're going to be doing some community meetings in August and in September to talk about what are their priorities and what are they willing to really have the town look like in the future. Some up and coming things we've got, and I know Bill Badger was here last week and he mentioned the tourist train. This is something we are very excited about. We're looking at partnering with the county. The county has selected a consultant to complete a feasibility study. The cost of the study is going to be about $20,000. Berlin's contribution is going to be about $5,000. And my understanding from talking to Mr. Badger is the county has executed that agreement, and so we're going to get with a consultant over the next several months to complete a feasibility study. It's very, very early on in a process that's going to take us quite some time to go through, but the town is very excited about the possibility of hosting that kind of a train, having that kind of a train station in downtown Berlin. So you'll hear more about that, I'm sure, over the next coming months. We're also looking at trying to pull a new hotel into town, and you've seen some of this in the paper, I know for sure. We're not quite sure where it's going to go just yet, and we're looking for a hotel that's about 44, 45 rooms. And if we're successful in getting it, which I think we will be in the next couple of months, the town will be able to receive about $40,000 annually in room tax, which we're pretty excited about. What I suspect we'll end up doing is taking that money and turning it back in to additional events and tourism and marketing related activities for the town. You've also probably read about a major annexation that we're looking at. Excuse me, right off of Seahawk Road, we've got over 100 acres. The developer's interested in having the town annexed. Right now, the developer's proposing is 900 apartment homes, which would be located right across the street from Stephen Decatur High School. That combined with a major commercial development, which would include retail, shops, and restaurants. So I can tell you more about that in the coming months, but right now what staff's doing with that proposal is assessing the impacts, how much we're going to need for water, sewer, what the street design needs to look like, what's the impact on the police department, what the roadway design needs to be, how that needs to be configured, and all of that. So that's like the big exciting thing we've got going right now. The developer's proposing to put those projects in, those homes in phases. The first phase would be 144 homes. So if you think about that large parcel of land, about a third of it would be designated for commercial, and that would be the parcel that's closest to Route 50. And then the second back part, closer to Flower Street, would be the 900 apartment homes. The next step with that, as I said, we're reviewing the impacts and trying to determine what our recommendations are that could be to the City Council. The project would need to go to the Planning Commission and ultimately to the City Council for approval. And the application just came in, I'd say about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so we're still processing it and determining what our recommendation would be. We're also partnering with the county, and I have a meeting next week to talk to them about what their concerns are with the annexation application and particular things that they'd like us to look at. So that's something that you'll see develop over the next coming months as well. Finally, I wanted to touch on a change that we're looking at making in our electric utility. We're one of the few cities in the state of Maryland that runs its own electric utility. And we're looking at putting in smart meters. And I'm sure you've read about Delmarva Power putting in smart meters. This is a very interesting technology because what it will allow you to do is get on your computer and see real time what your electric bill is doing. You can turn a light switch off and you can see what it does to your usage. It's fascinating. So it enables you to make decisions about, okay, how much do I really want to pay for electric? Do I really want to run my washer and dryer during the peak period, or is it better for me to run it first thing in the morning or later in the day? I think it's a great technology in terms of giving customers information that they can use to control their own costs. So in a nutshell, That's what's going on in Berlin that's currently happening. And then that's what, the other part I was talking about is what we're going to be focusing on in the future. Are there any questions?
That hotel, it said Cobblestone or something?
Right, Cobblestone is I call it a franchise, it's the firm that has been talking to a couple of local property owners in Berlin. They also did a feasibility analysis, including Snow Hill and a lot of other communities in the general area. They had gone to the county, and they're working with the county to put a hotel in the area, and we're competing pretty hardly for that.
Does it have any brand name hotels with it, or is that what it's going to be known as?
Cobblestone is the brand name. It's a smaller, mid-priced hotel. They're in places like Texas, Nebraska. This would be their first Maryland location, but they are, I would say, a smaller boutique-ish type hotel. Yes.
The bed and breakfast, y'all have a few of those in town. Do they pay the town room tax?
There is some room tax that's attached to the, yes, it's a very small portion, but yes.
Will you be putting conditions on the building of any new development that conforms with the ethic quality of the town?
That conforms with
The value of the town? Like, will you put conditions like, you know, it has to be a certain, it has to have brick, has to have this, has to have that,
Right.
has to have lighting?
Good
blah, blah,
question.
blah.
Yeah, good question. We have this thing called a comprehensive plan, which is a document that sets policies in terms of how we develop. So the first thing that the annexation or any development needs to do is it needs to meet the requirements of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is going to make broad policy statements like, you know, we should have sidewalks everywhere. We should have a green belt. We should have as much open space as possible. We should have an urban buffer, urban development buffer, so that there's land and open space between different developments within town. So it's broad policy statements. The town does not have design standards, which I think is what you're referring to. The county, however, does have design standards. And our planning commission right now is in the process of taking the county design standards and tailoring them to meet Berlin's needs. So I can expect to be able to answer that question as, yes, we have design standards within the next couple of months, because the planning commission is looking at instituting those right now.
We had that in Atlanta, and it served us very well that the community could put conditions on the zoning that had to have certain things. And that works very well.
Right, well, we do have a historic commission that covers our downtown.
Yeah.
Right, and so they don't control necessarily, there's no requirements to deal with paint colors as part of what they review, but their charge really is to ensure the historic integrity of our downtown. And so if you want to put in a fence, for example, if you have property downtown, you want to put a fence in, or if you want to change the facade of your building, you need to present those design standards to the Historic District Commission and for their review and approval. In fact, I mentioned our visitor center, and it's a charming building, but boy, it needs some work. So one of the things we're doing is putting in a paint scheme and looking at making some facade improvements, changing up the windows, because right now we're spending a ton on heating and air conditioning because it's just flying out the door. And all of that needs to go to the Historic District Commission for their review and approval. Sure.
The project
Sorry,
on
Ron.
Seahawk Road, how's that gonna impact that road that's gonna supposedly come west in front of Home Depot
You mean the service road?
and, yeah?
Yes.
How's that gonna impact that?
It's hard to say right now because the developer has changed their design a couple of times. They came to us in the fall of last year originally with this proposal as a concept, and then they officially submitted an annexation application, like I said, about a month ago. In between those two times, the service road moved pretty significantly. And I mentioned to you, we're meeting with the county next week, so the county is very concerned about the placement of that service road. And we have agreed with the county to be a partner in this annexation agreement. So what we're gonna do is sit down with the county and reach an understanding in terms of where that service road should be placed. So unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly where it's going to be, but I can tell you it's an issue that we're paying close attention to.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any new movie making coming to Berlin?
No, gosh, that's a great question. No, and in fact, when I'm doing the ambassador, one of my favorite things to hand out, and I didn't bring it today, but hopefully you'll ask me to come back and I can bring it next time. We have a brochure that's a walking tour of all the key scenes of the movie Runaway Bride, and it's one of the most popular brochures that we produce. We were just talking about how can we get another movie in, because when the movie was here, the merchants just did wonderful, wonderful business. And it was a lot of, it was a lot of fun. Now, of course, I wasn't here, but what I'm hearing is it was a ton of fun. We'd love to have another movie come in. We just haven't been able to make that connection work just yet. Yes, sir?
I just wanted to comment that the high school electronic sign advertises Berlin.
It's
Did you
true.
notice that?
I did.
Right on 50.
I did.
You can't help but miss it.
Right, so that, to me, that was one of the great things about the America's Coolest Small Town Contest, was how the community really came together. It was a great community building activity and opportunity, and it also enabled us to develop even better working relationships with our friends in Ocean City, because we got the city council on board helping us out, and a lot of businesses in Ocean City also, including the Chamber of Commerce, put on their signs, vote America's Coolest Small Town, so it made a great difference in terms of the end result. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there any movement on the old Tyson plant?
The old Tyson plant, that's a great question. So there's a lot of buzz in the community about doing something with the old Tyson plant, and there's a particular issue we've got with that one. We have an ethics code that requires us to follow certain conditions that elected officials have to file financial disclosures, employees such as myself have to file financial disclosures. One of the aspects of the ethics code is we cannot enter into a contract with an elected official. And Troy Purnell owns that property, so what the town attorney had recommended is that somebody from the community go to the ethics commission that we have in town and ask them if there's a way, if there's a process that can be followed. There's some interest in having the town purchase that property. And so to answer your question, the two issues that I can see with that is one, the ethics issue, and I'm not sure how that's gonna play out. I am the person who staffs the ethics commission, and nobody's brought anything forward just yet, so I would expect that to happen at some point. Second issue I can see with that is money. My understanding is the value of the property, or what it would sell for, is like $2.5 million. Right now we have about $4.5 to $5 million in the bank. That's a nice level of reserves. There aren't many other communities in the state of Maryland that can say they have a nice savings account in case something happens. Now, just like you would want for your own personal planning purposes to have an emergency fund and some money in the bank, cities need to have that kind of nest egg as well. So I think the other issue is how will this town, if they get past the ethics issue, if we can manage to do that, how will the town be able to afford to buy the property and then develop the property in a way that I hear people talking about in the community. The council has not officially discussed this at all, but I can tell you there is a lot of buzz in the community. Now, I did mention the train, and Graham and I were talking about that earlier. The train tracks run past the Tyson plant as well. So one possibility could be that a train station as part of that project gets placed on the Tyson property. It's hard to say at this point what really is going to happen. Anything else? Well, thank you very much.
Laura, thank you very much. That was extremely interesting. Find out what's going on right next door to us.
No escape.
Yeah. And in appreciation, we'd like to give you a Kiwanis pen. So, thanks.
Stay for one other.
Yeah, I think the better of the two.
Nice talk.
Okay.